I'm happy to join with you today in what will go down in the history as the greatest demonstration for freedom in the history of our nation. 50 years ago, a great American whose symbolical shadow we stand today signed the Emancipation Proclamation. This momentous decree came as a great beacon light of hope to millions of Negro slaves who have been feared in the flames of withering injustice. It came as a joyous daybreak to end the long night of captivity. But 100 years later, the Negro still is not free. 100 years later, the life of Negro is still sadly crippled in the manacles of segregation and in the chains of discrimination. 100 years later, the Negro still stands in the lonely island of poverty in the midst of a vast ocean of material prosperity. 100 years later, the Negro still is languished in the corners of American society and finds himself in exile in his own land. So we have come here today to dramatize a shameful condition. In a sense, we have come here today to cash a check. When the architects of our republic wrote the magnificent words of the Constitution and the Declaration of our Independence, then they signed a promissory note. It was a promise to all men. Yes, black men and white men will be guaranteed the unalienable rights of life, liberty and pursuit of happiness. But it is obvious today that the Negro has defaulted on its promissory note insofar as the citizens of color are concerned. Instead of honoring this sacred obligation, it has given the Negro a back check. A check that has come with a backmark, insufficient funds. But we refuse to believe that the Bank of Justice is bankrupt. But we refuse to believe that there are insufficient funds in the vast ocean of opportunities of our nation. So we have come here today to cash a check. A check that will give Negro demand upon riches of freedom and security of justice. We have come today to this hallowed spot to remind America of its fierce urgency of now. It is no time to engage in the luxury of cooling off or take the tranquility drug of gradualism. Now is the time to make real the promise of democracy. Now is the time to lift ourselves from the dark and desolated valleys of segregation to the sunlight path of racial justice. Now is the time to lift America from the quicksands of racial injustice to the solid brick of brotherhood. Now is the time to make justice a reality for all of God's children. It may be fatal for the nation to overlook the urgency of this moment. Yes, this sweltering sum of the Negro's legitimate discontent will not pass until there is an incorporating autumn of freedom and equality. 1963 is not an end, but a beginning. For those who hope that the Negro needed to blow off streams and will be content will have a rude awakening if the nation returns to business as usual. There will be no rest nor tranquility in America until the Negro is given his citizenship right. The whirlwinds of revolt will continue to shake the foundations of the nation until the bright day of justice emerges. But I say to you, my people, who stand in the warmth of their souls which lead to the palace of justice, in the process of gaining our rightful needs, we should not be guilty of our wrongful deeds. Yes, we should forever connect to our struggle on the high plane of dignity and discipline. We must not allow our creative protest to degenerate into physical violence. Again and again we must remember to reach the majestic heights of meeting our physical force with our soul force. I am not unmindful that some of you have come here out of great trials and tribulations. Some of you have come here fresh from narrow jails. Some of you have come here from areas where your quest for freedom has been battered by the storms of police brutality and staggered by the winds of perception. You have come here, you have been the veterans of creative suffering. Go back to Mississippi, go back to Alabama, go back to South Carolina, go back to Georgia, go back to Louisiana, go back to the slums and ghettos of the northern plains, hoping that the bright day of justice emerges and will emerge. I say to you, my friends, so even though we face the difficulties of today and tomorrow, I still have a dream. It's a dream deeply rooted in American dream. I have a dream that one day this nation will rise and live out its true meaning of its creed. We all hold the truths to be self-evident that all men are created equal. I have a dream that one day on the red hills of Georgia, the sons of former slaves and the sons of former slave owners will be able to sit together at the table of brotherhood. I that one day in the state of Mississippi, a state sweltering with the heat of oppression, a state sweltering with the heat of injustice, will be transformed into an oasis of freedom and equality. I have a dream that one day right down in Alabama, the black boys and black girls will be able to shake hands with the white boys and white girls as brothers and sisters. I have a dream today. I have a dream that my 4 little children will one day live in a nation where the Lord be judged by the color of their skin, but by the content of their character. I have a dream today. I have a dream that one day every valley shall be exalted, every hill and plain shall be made low, rough places will be made plain, crooked places will be made straight, and the glory of the Lord Almighty shall be revealed, and all flesh shall see it together. This is our hope. This is the faith that I'll go back to southward. With this faith, we'll be able to hew out the mountains of despair, a stone of hope. With this faith, we'll be able to transform the jagging discords of our nation in a beautiful symphony of brotherhood. Yes, let freedom reign. And if America is to be a great nation, this must happen. So let us allow freedom to reign. Let freedom ring from the high plains of New York. Let freedom ring from the curvaceous plains of California. Let freedom ring from the stone mountains of Georgia. Not only that, let freedom ring from the hill and molehill of Mississippi. From every wanting side, let freedom and reign. And if this happens, and if we allow freedom to reign, we'll be able to speed up that day. When, if we allow freedom to reign in every village and every hamlet, every state and every city, we'll be able to speed up that day. When all of God's children will be able to shake hands together. The Jews and the Gentiles, Catholics and the Protestants and the black men and white men will sing the old songs of the Negro. We are free at last. We are free at last. Thank God Almighty, we are free at last. Thank God Almighty, we are free at last. Thank you.